Hello everyone, I'm ExtraCheesy87 and this is Let's Play Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Part 16. In the previous video we got into some trial stuff. I don't remember if we started the trial in the last video. It's been about 3-4 days since I last recorded this game. What I do know is that we're doing a cross-examination of Emma Skye, who is not very interested in this right now. She looks away. Let's start pressing. I don't know what she testified about, so we're gonna have to start from the beginning and actually pay attention to what she's saying. Or like what we're pressing. Who would steal a body just to match some lyrics? I didn't believe it myself, but it can't just be a coincidence. It's as Fräulein Detective says. Let us begin with the first verse, if you would, Fräulein Detective. You want me to sing it? You are the witness, yeah? Or do you want me to sing? I warn you, my fee as a vocalist is not trivial. Fine. Let's look at the first part of the lyrics, shall we? When you stole away the keys my heart held onto so tight. Indeed, my favorite heart-shaped keyring was stolen that morning. Next, you go to the right page of the lyric sheet. Whoa, incredible lyricism, Gavin. Really showing your talent there. Where we find, burning on in my heart, fire my burning love away, all the way. As we know, Prosecutor Gavin's guitar burst into flame. What? This is the first time hearing about that. Like a bullet of love, fire, take my life away, all the way. Mr. Latous's life was taken by a bullet. Bravo, Fräulein. Technically it was blood loss, but you know, you're singing, it's not bad. Now for the finale. Guitar up together to the sky, as it says in the lyrics, Mr. Latous. Was found with a guitar high in the sky over the stage. Really, nobody's gonna be like, how the hell did this man, this tiny little child, who's actually 40 years old, get him up there? I don't buy it. No series of coincidences could be so well conceived. He's right, scientifically speaking. What would Waki have said? That concert was whack? Nice callback, Apollo. It's hard to argue when she pours her heart into it like that. Anyway, the shooter... Does the prosecution have any idea why I do all that? You want my scientific opinion? No clue. But he clearly had a reason to go through all that trouble. Some deep reason. A deep reason? Not only did he steal my keys, he torched my guitar. Unforgivable acts even if he had a reason, and worse if he had none. The Divas complaints aside, I can't imagine someone doing this on just a whim. Fräulein Detective, I take offense to that description. Indeed, that seemed to be too well rehearsed how she said it. Yes, this crime was planned for sure. No one in this country had a motive to kill the victim. You don't know that. We don't know anything about this guy. What if he had beef? But Mr. Latous spoke English. He may have come to this country before. I looked into that. I assure you, it was his first time in the country, it seems. Yeah, but you don't know. Apparently he learned English on his own. Great. You see, no one here had a motive to kill him, and certainly not in such an elaborate fashion. It does seem difficult to imagine. Unless our famous prosecutor did it as a publicity stunt. What'd you say? Prosecutor Gavin, you did this to write your song? That's kind of badass. You know what? Case closed. I'm dropping the charges. Of course not. I am quite dismayed by the ludicrous claim of her nature. Why would I need promotion? Everyone already listens to my music. They're even in my textbook at school. You know, the reason I know that's a fucking lie is no school has textbooks that are like that up to date. I don't buy it. And I've never heard of them. What does that say about me? I'm just kidding. Don't get all worked up, Glimmer Boy. I don't know, maybe in a... I mean, if we're trying to do a real approximation of this being in America, all the textbooks are at least 30 years old. What do you mean by his signature? The bullet holes in the wall, of course. The bullet holes. The revolver was fired twice. One shot missed and left a hole in the wall. And that means what exactly? That dressing room isn't exactly spacious. Picture the shooter facing off with the victim in there. They can't have been more than 5 feet apart. Well, you know, another aspect, I mean, we already know that they shot through the window, but we haven't established that yet. Another reason why the idea that he shot the guy in the room is so ludicrous is look where the bullet holes are. Like, they're so high up, and this Maki guy's like, you know, 4'3". There's no way that the trajectory would work out. Now that may come into play, but it is kind of like, it's one of those things that would be extremely obvious, and it's like the idea that they would charge this little child with murder is kind of dumb. They can't even more than 5 feet apart. I mean, I guess the fact that they would charge him is kind of okay, because sometimes people do get charged when it's like there's absolutely no way they could have done this crime, but you know, the long arm of the law decides whether you're guilty or not. But yeah, it does seem like a very obvious objection. It would be difficult, almost impossible to miss that range. Difficult to miss, you say? Very. Assuming the shooter could properly aim. But like, okay, they're gonna say that because he's a small child he couldn't aim properly, which is ludicrous. Because he would like... I think in his case, they were talking about how the gun would like break your hand, and I was saying that's ridiculous. For him, maybe. Maybe. Maybe that's true. Assuming the shooter could properly aim. You can't be serious. Maki, he can't see. Oh, is he blind? I'd forgotten that. Yeah, he is blind. That's why he missed? It's the only explanation that makes sense. He used sound and other senses to fire the gun. Poorly. That reminds me, the monitor in that room was blaring at the time, yeah? The ideal conditions for tracking by sound. A blind shooter. No wonder he missed. This bullet holes would come back to haunt me. Think, Justice. What do I do now? I mean, we don't really have like a good piece of evidence that shows the, like the height difference there. It's one of those things where it's like our objection or like our reasoning that they shot through the window is just like basic common sense. We don't have any evidence. Really? It was just one of those things that you see it and you're like, okay, obviously that's what they're going for here. Because we don't really have an objection. But it's like, okay, is this going to be an objection where Phoenix says, where he counters with basic common sense? Or are they going to ask me to present something? Because if he just counters with basic common sense, then that's good. But if they're like, well, present some evidence then, I'm like, I don't have any. I don't know. Usually you don't get punished for not saying anything in these situations, so worst case scenario, I just have to press again. You couldn't see, so the first shot missed? His explanation goes, it's airtight, but it's really not. Here's a shooter did leave a signature. Afraid this is looking bad for our young defendant. Witness may continue with her testimony. We'll see what else she has to say and then circle back around. Because right now I don't really... Like, we don't have any evidence against that. Other than just the fact that the gun be kind of heavy. And it seems unlikely that would have been his weapon of choice. Because like, if we had the bullet hole, like the bullet holes as evidence, and this doesn't say he was shot in the back. Now, we assume he shot in the back, but we don't actually, doesn't actually say that in the evidence yet. You can't say that for sure. Please, none of those non-scientific objections, they're bad for my complexion. What's so scientific about a murder to lyrics? Lyrics can be explained scientifically. Never underestimate the power of science. Put that bottle of fingerprinting powder down before you hurt someone, like me. Okay, then explain it, scientifically. I require more data. Likely story. Doesn't look so good, does it, Apollo? No, it doesn't. What do we do? First, we don't panic. Even though Maki's case is leaking water by the gallon, Gavin's on a roll, and it's up to me to stop him. Okay, so we'll go back and just raise an objection. I don't think any of her actual other statements had contradictions in them. Okay, I am clicking. I am clicking. I am clicking. Do we know anything about, like, Maki? It says he's blind. Phoenix, right? Died after leaving me with his last words. Oh yeah, and this guy, the one who actually did it, probably. Like a 90% chance Shark Boy's the killer. Sure, there are bullet holes left in the wall. That doesn't prove the shooter can see. Oh, how so? Well, it could have been a struggle with the victim. That's certainly possible. Yes, the 7-foot-tall man struggled with a 4-foot child. And it might have been the revolver's fault. The revolver? The revolver was a very large caliber, correct? The shooter was used to fire such a large weapon. Why could dislocate their shoulder? I mean, wouldn't really dislocate their shoulder. Whatever. Exactly. Now, would he probably drop the gun to the recoil? Yeah, I could see that. 100%. The defendant, Maki Tobe, as you can see, is tiny. Not so hard to picture him firing the gun and missing entirely. Well, like, I don't feel like we shouldn't... I don't think we should concede the idea that he fired the gun. Personally. The kickback alone would throw off his aim. But, like, we've conceded that he shot him. Like, this is not a good defense at all. We're just saying, well, if he missed, it wasn't because he was blind. It was because, the gun had too much kickback. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Take that, smug prosecution. Apollo? What? A bit about Maki being tiny. And the gun throwing off his aim? Aren't you kind of, admitting that he did it? Oh. Does not matter why he missed. What matters is that the shooter was, without a doubt, the defendant. Even the defense seems to agree on that point. So, we've shifted our philosophy. We're just trying not to get the death penalty, alright? Cripes, really come out footing it this time. Let's get the facts of the matter on the record. If you would, Fräulein Detective. Okay, now what does it say here? From the state of the crime scene, I conclude the shooter was blind. State of the crime scene. Now, what evidence do we have to say that the shooter was not blind? We're gonna have to kind of look through everything again. So, blood loss. So, I mean, let's go with their version of events. Their version of events is that the defendant shoots twice and then immediately flees into the vent. And we need some way to prove that he was not blind. Some reason that his sight would have come into play. Well, how's he gonna read the lyrics if he's blind? You think that would count? I mean, I feel like it's actually kind of a good objection, but I don't know if the game's gonna, because I mean, there's like, because it's both a good and a bad objection. The idea that like he wouldn't know about the lyrics because he's blind, because I mean, these obviously aren't in Braille. But that doesn't mean he couldn't have had them read to him ahead of time. Plus, he's involved in the production of the song. So the idea that he would know the lyrics despite being blind seems kind of like I feel like there's explanations for both sides. Like, it could be explained that he didn't know them because maybe the lyrics are written up and I don't remember if he said when he wrote them. Like, maybe they were written the night before and Maki's not involved in the process or something like that. I feel like that alone isn't enough. In order to speak to no one. Revolver. I remember we looked at this and I don't think there was anything here, right? Because it was here and then the thingy. So you load the bullets. So many different worlds. Like some sort of evidence he wasn't blind. Belongs to Lamuror, mixing board, keyring. And I got nothing. Can I press you again? Can't say I was blind just because of those bullet holes in the wall. I think I've proven that. I wouldn't call it proof per se. You merely raised a possibility. Blind detectives made a most logical conjecture based upon the evidence. Of course, there's more evidence than just bullet holes. The defendant was the only one who could have escaped through the air vent. But wait, if he was blind, how would he know about the air vent in the first place? Yeah. Ah, very good point. Well, Fräulein Detective, if you would care to explain, I don't know, he felt it. Certainly seems sure of himself. Recall the crime scene if you would. I mean, the air vent was right next to the door. There was a stepladder below the air vent. As it happens, maintenance was scheduled for that day. Custodial staff went around checking all the air vents. I don't believe it. Everyone backstage was told about the maintenance, including Maki Tobe. He would have known that there would be a way out at the top of the stepladder. Well, why is it the first time I'm hearing about this? Could have figured it out for yourself. Well, you needed to consider what the stepladder was doing there. Thought it was stepping. Yo, looks like the defense's objection has been squashed by a stepladder. Well, her forehead? Out of ammunition, perhaps? I've never seen Prosecutor Gavin so aggressive. Maybe he's caught the scent of blood. Apollo, don't you have something? Anything? You know what we need. We need something to prove the killer could see. That'll put him in his place. I mean, shit, really all I have is the lyric sheet. I would take down one of the central points. I really don't want to present it, but like, we have to try just to eliminate the possibility. Because, I mean, it's all we got. At least it's all I can see. Maybe I'm the blind one. As I knew you would, her forehead. What's exactly I'm up against here? Prosecution is saying the shooter missed because she couldn't see. It's not even a tongue twister, man. Therefore, Maki, who's blind, did it. Pencil, please present their evidence. Evidence that overturns the prosecution's claim the shooter couldn't see. Alright. Let's look through one more time. Sightseeing music. Sightseeing music. Doesn't really mean anything though, because I mean she's the one who sees, and we don't even really know like what, because he just plays the piano for all we know. But it is called sightseeing music because she looks at sights. But I feel like that doesn't really mean anything in regard to Maki. Brooch. Anything? It was the safety pin thing. I don't think it was anything important there. The mixing board, in theory, not involved. Keyring. I mean, if we assume he's the one who stole the keyring, I mean, it does seem unlikely you'd be able to steal the keyring if you're blind. Nothing really there. Prime photo. In the diagram. A reason he could see. Alright, we gotta eliminate this possibility. And if this isn't it, oh man, we're fucked. I'm not sure that overturns anything, Mr. Justice. Wrong evidence, I'm guessing. Apparently both love and justice are blind. I have to think. There must be something. Anything. What do we do? I'm like, it makes no sense, but I'm really like the sightseeing music part's really got me. But it makes no sense. A reason his ass was blind. Alright, I gotta go with the sights. It makes no sense. But it says sightseeing in it. And I don't know where else we're going to use it as evidence. That's honestly the main reason. Like, I can't think of anywhere else that would be useful. Like going further in the case. Like, this just doesn't seem like a very useful piece of evidence. And it doesn't make much sense in this situation, but I feel like this is maybe the spot where it's going to make the most sense to use. Now, you don't always end up using evidence. Occasionally, there are pieces of evidence that don't get used in cases. So we're in kind of like, we're swinging blind here. Because I'm gonna go with this, and then I'm gonna go keyring. Let me think for a second, because I mean, I feel like there's nothing else. I mean, the gun, I mean, you could load a gun blind. Sightseeing music. I'm not sure that, yeah, okay. Alright, so I'm gonna go keys now. Oh wait, this is the wrong thing. Oh god, we gotta go through this whole freaking rigmarole again. I don't know if there's a way to like skip the text faster. There maybe is, but instead I'm just gonna aggressively click. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we reset the thing to the next line of would have been faster to close the thing and restart it with the save. Please, help. Because granted, I mean, we also don't actually know that the killer stole the keys, so I feel like that's a bad objection too. We're just assuming based on the lyric thing, which also isn't proven. I don't know. A way out at the top of the stepladder. To prove the killer could see. I mean, I assume if I say no such luck, it just backs me out. If Ramaki, who's blind, did it. A reason the shooter couldn't see. A reason the shooter could see. Oh! Because the name is wiped. Or presumably whatever was written there is wiped. The photograph of the crime scene? I don't care much for the smirk on Prosecutor Gavin's face. But this is no time to think twice. Time to press on. I guess it's like, I remembered the name, but I guess like in my head I was like, the fact that it hadn't been brought up at all, I was kind of like, I was discounting it. Because the game has never said that, like, you know, it's implied that this is a name here, I'm pretty sure. Maybe at the very start, I don't really remember. It's been a while since we started this case. So it was kind of like, I mean, honestly, I didn't think about it at all, but I think even if I had thought about it, I would have been kind of still a little wishy-washy on it, just because I'm like, well, is that a leap of logic, us saying that this bloodstain is supposed to be a name that's wiped away? I mean, it obviously looks like it, but just because something's obvious doesn't mean you can use it yet. Like, you know, the fact that he's been shot in the back seems pretty obvious, but we can't use that yet. Yes, Your Honor, the crime scene. There's something here that decisively contradicts the prosecution's point. I do wish it made mention of the blood, though, here. Like, you know, something's, you know, something about it seems unnatural, you know, anything like that. Because once again, it seems kind of obvious, I will agree, but a lot of the things in this case seem kind of obvious, but we can't present them yet. And perhaps you'd best show us this something. Get your finger out of the breeze and put it to good use, yeah? Very well. Show us what you're talking about, Mr. Justice. Contradiction at the scene of the crime is... The contradiction is right here. The smeared bloodstains? I thought it was just my blurry vision. But it really was blurry. The way the victim's hand is raised above his head. Much like a gesture I've seen many times in this court. Almost as if he wrote something. I get it. At least I think I get it. Get what, Fräulein? Just after Toots was shot, he tried to write something. And what would he write but the shooter's name? And what would he write in but his own blood? Pretty good, huh? Now, there is another aspect of this, that like the idea that he wouldn't have had time to write in his own blood. Because, I mean, it was 2 shots. We went in there like 30 seconds later. So the idea that he had enough time to notice dude was writing in his own blood and then make his escape through the ladder, which just so happens to be right next to the door in that, like, honestly, like 15-second window is a little ridiculous, but thanks for making my point for me. Yes, in fact, that's what I think happened here. That does seem to be a distinct possibility. Victim wrote the killer's name. It's certainly a logical conclusion. Sure, I just wish it wasn't all rubbed out like that. Of course it's rubbed out. Well, if I were a killer, not that I am anymore, I certainly wouldn't want to leave my own name behind. Neither would I. No one has anything else to say? About what? So the prosecution accepts this? You agree this is the victim making an attempt to record the name of the killer? And that the killer tried to rub the name out? What's your point? What's my point? Let me ask you this. How did the killer know the victim was writing their name? Mr. Otis was writing something in blood once the killer saw what it was. Wait. Once he saw? There's no saws here. We're not in carpenter class, Apollo. Penalty. But what did you just testify about the shooter? I said they were blind. Yet the crime scene itself contradicts that. The killer had to have been able to see. Why else did they rub out the name in blood otherwise? And around the court, the defendant Maki Tobe is blind. He could have been the shooter. Well, allegedly blind. Just like he's allegedly 14. Impossible! Order, order, order! Prosecutor Gavin, please explain to me what this all means. I mean, look at this photo. It's quite clear the shooter could see. Yeah, up till now. Seems I owe the court an apology. I mean, we still haven't technically proved it was the killer who wiped it out. For some reason, I've been kind of under the belief that it was probably the dude wiped it out for some reason. The Gaviniers are a band with law enforcement ties, yet a murder occurred. I mean, we could also kind of test it, right? Because I mean, there's no blood on his finger. Well, we can't see this part of his hand. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull like he was actually the one who wiped it away for some reason. During our concert, apparently this caused some confusion over jurisdiction. As a result, some reports are not filed in an entirely timely manner. I'm not sure I like the vibe I'm getting here. Hey, Apollo, look at him. Is he about to present evidence without at first going through discovery and being presented to the defense? Because if so, I think that's illegal. Why is supposed to get a Gavin all relaxed and smiling like that? Like he knows something we don't? He's about to tell us? I've got an idea. Let's rock with these documents. But before that, I have a question for the Fräulein detective, if I may. What? Tell me, why do you think that Maki Tobe is blind? What did he say? What are you saying? Of course he's blind. Of course. He's the blind pianist, right? Well, I mean, we know everything about Lady was a lie, so him being blind being a lie is, not a stretch. So he's... Doesn't Lemure lead him around by the hand all the time? No way. I have a report here on the defendant, Maki Tobe. According to this, Maki Tobe can see perfectly well. What? His blindness was merely a publicity ploy by those clever Borgians. He can see quite well. He's also 40 years old. But you said... What did I say exactly? Her forehead, not once in the course of this trial. Have I claimed the defendant was blind? The only one who did that was the Fräulein detective. But that's... a significant fact, yes? Consider, Maki Tobe sees. And he was the only one who could have fled through the air vent. I see no problem with this. What about the bullet holes in the wall? Yes, the bullet holes. I believe her forehead neatly explained those for us. He didn't miss because he couldn't see. It was the kickback from the .45 caliber revolver. A simple accident, in other words. How's that? I'm afraid your objection has just flown off for brighter skies. Ha ha! It's funny because her name is Emma Skye. This is where the real fun begins, her forehead. I knew you didn't have what it took. You jerk. So what was I in here for? Comic relief? Yes, actually. Yeah, apologize. Sorry. That's no way to apologize. He's angered the Tracy now. Look out. If we can please end the bickering now. Whatever, I'm not leaving. Can't leave like this. I come up with some clue to solving this case if it kills me. But your testimony's already given us enough to convict the defendant. Don't say that. Wait. This blood stain. The criminal tried to wipe it off, right? Seems to what happened, yes? I'm about to find out what's really written here. Really? You can do that? Scientifically, of course. With this. It's called luminol. Oh man, remember luminol? Maybe you know of it? It's a chemical that reacts to blood. Yeah, so you've done those tests yet. As I'm gonna tell you, bloodstains covered a section of this carpet. In order to perform blood tests, that section was removed and submitted. Perhaps we should request it here in court now. Why didn't you guys just do like a gunpowder residue test on Maki to see if he shot the gun or not? It was like, I mean, he was captured right after he would have shot the gun. Go for it, Apollo. I have to do the test. Actually, it was probably a couple hours. But still. You just have to spread luminol on it. Simple. Chemical that reacts to blood. I've heard of this somewhere. I believe an analysis is called for. Have at it. Right. Ready? It's easy to spot. Right's not here right now, though. Just touch the screen to spray an area. Here, give it a try. And then you shake it or something. You has the entire quarter focus on me. Paul, your hand's shaking. Let's do this. Does that say happy birthday? Definitely some numbers. 314206. IPXX? IPXX 314206. 3142. It's not like a date or nothing. This must be the power of science. It says IPXX 314206. Is that the killer's name? Oh, it's a damn Terminator! It's a Terminator come from the future! He finally eliminate me! Bailiff, you gotta get me out of here! I have it. So, what is it? Thought those letters IPXX look familiar. This is an Interpol ID number. Interpol? You mean the International Police Agency? Yes, most are undercover agents working to solve international crimes. Why would he write that number? Maybe he was an Interpol agent? How would Mr. Latouche even know a number like that? Good show, Fräulein Detective. Rock on. Your Honor, you can verify this number immediately. Darian, are you there? Come to the witness stand. Maybe you? Are you Interpol agent? Whatever, blah, blah, blah? Because we know you're probably the killer. Just because you have the short stick of, you're like the only other person who's like not been presented as the killer yet, so it kind of has to be you. Could be magician guy, but it seems unlikely. I feel like he's like a lead-in for a later case. And plus there's the whole thing with the mixing board that's sus. Go check on this Interpol ID number. Sure thing. Give me 30 minutes. No. Give me 27. No. Give me 33. No. Give me 45 minutes. I'm not sure what to think of all this. Prosecution's cases are tighter, so it seems. You know, this number is really that of an Interpol agent. Oh, wait. I know. What if Maki Tobe is really an undercover Interpol agent? That would be a possibility. Possibility, yes. Maybe he's like a 40-year-old. And one that would mark him as the killer for certain. How did Latouche know an Interpol ID number? That's what I want to know. Well, we have some time while we write Darian's report. Let's work on unraveling another mystery, shall we? Curious mystery concerning Maki Tobe. Okay, here's my theory that I'm throwing out there. The Interpol ID agent is the Darian guy, but he spelled it wrong. So he had to wipe it away so he didn't finger someone else who was not involved in the case. Yeah, that's it. Something like that. I mean, it could just be the killer wiped it away as well. What are you talking about? Well, detective, please accept my apologies. I've received word the defendant could, in fact, see just before the trial began. Seemed too much of a bother to tell you. You had me until that last bit. Does not raise a further straightforward question? Well, sure. Why did Maki pretend he couldn't see? Exactly. Makes little sense. Well, did he pretend he couldn't see, or we just assumed that he couldn't? I mean, because if it was just his talent agencies, that's like, it's more exotic if you're like the blind pianist. And then this motherfucker can't speak English, allegedly. You know, it's not like you've gotten anything in interrogation out of him. He just keeps hitting us with goats and arrows. What do you think, our forehead? Huh? Me? Maki Tobe pretended he was blind. You know why? How could he know? Wait, Prosecutor Gavin knows why, doesn't he? He's known from the start of the trial. He's been leading us on the whole time. Nothing wrong. Do you think perhaps this is all some kind of game? No, at the moment I heard that report, I knew why. I suppose people have sold over 1 million records really are something else. What's that have to do with anything? There was a reason why Maki Tobe pretended to be blind, but it wasn't for his own sake. Get in the picture now? Wasn't for himself. Well, Mr. Augustus? Evidence that shows us why the defendant had a feigned blindness? I don't fucking know. I assume it's something to do with Lady. Is this where we present this again? Maybe he's the eyes that sees the stuff? Maki had no reason to pretend he couldn't see. Which means no, it couldn't be. Should show her forehead. Seems you thought of something. Why can't I figure these things out on my own? Wait, I'm gonna take my cues from this guy. Very well. Look at this. This is why he was pretending he couldn't see. I don't fucking know, man. Eventually, we gotta use this. That is Lemuror? Lemuror and Maki Tobe. Call their relationship. In particular, their unique arrangement over the years before visiting our country. Lemuror and her pianist. They would always walk together, she leading him by the hand. Even when they got on stage, she would lead him onto the piano. She would walk all the way over there with him. That's right, because he was blind. She led him at all times, never letting him go. So I'm guessing they're saying she was blind? All times. You know, we've just learned something that makes their arrangement peculiar indeed. Maki could see. Why do they have to keep with this act the whole time? I mean, it could just be that it's for publicity reasons. That seems to be the obvious explanation, but I assume they're going to go with a, like, epic twist. Which would be that she's blind? I don't know if we've had anything that show, like, I don't know if there's been any hints of that. There could have been, and I just haven't paid attention. Wasn't it a part of their performance? I think there's a simpler explanation. Maki did not need to be led by the hand at all. That can only mean one thing. Really? Really, it was all the other way around. The one who needed to be led by the hand. Well, I can't remember. Because she reacted weird to the, like, guitar being lit on fire, right? Like, maybe she didn't see his reaction to it. I don't know, it's been too long since we actually started this case. It's probably been, like, close to a week. So I don't really remember the beginning. But I seem to remember there being something about her, like, I remember something about her dialogue being a little weird there. The one who needed to be led by the hand was Lemuror. What's this? So you mean to say that Lemuror is... she's... Yes, Your Honor. Lemuror is blind. What? Order, order, order! This is crazy, Prosecutor Gavin. Is it now? Please shed some sanity on this madness. The defense has made an outrageous claim. The only thing outrageous I see about the defense is his vast forehead. Is it really that much bigger than normal? Yet I see it as not vast in vain this time. He's quite correct. What? That makes no sense. Yeah, wasn't she supposed to be the landscape painter in sound or something? Well, since we have her here, why not ask her herself? I believe she is still in the witness waiting room. Paula, what does this mean for our case? We're fucked? Don't ask me. I had no idea she couldn't see. I hadn't even imagined it until now. Bailiff, bring her in. Lemuror, pains me deeply to call you before us again in this way. And yet I must. Oh god, what did you sound like? I don't remember. Because I know, like, originally the joke was going to be that she was going to have the same voice as the guy who died at a protest of him dying before I got to do his voice much. But then when I started doing her voice, it morphed into something else because I couldn't capture it. And it became like a bad, like, French question mark accent. Like, I don't really know what it was supposed to be. It was something. Please do not be concerned on my behalf. I don't remember. It was something weird like that. His eyes, she really can't see. Really. It is true. How funny it is a tiny lab born in the Borgian countryside would one day grow to entangle this entire world. What? So you are? Yes, as mentioned before. I have no memory of time before I became Lemuror. No, too, that my memories begin in dark. So you're 1000% Chickadee's mom then. Because you wouldn't recognize her because she's blind. 11 billion%. I'm locking that shit in. Know too that my memories begin in darkness. The word light has no meaning for Lemuror. See. You may recall me saying something towards the beginning of this trial, her forehead. What's that? I believe I said it was unfortunate this crime had no direct witness. Now, Lemuror, I must ask you to stand once again. Will you testify the court about your eyes? Of course, it was never my intention to deceive you. May I begin? Well, what about the time when you said what you saw, despite not seeing? I never intended to deceive you. Yes, of course. Oh, I admit, I'm a little lost here. I think we're all a bit lost here, Your Honor. I have no memory of the light. I debuted in a world of darkness and sound. My producer came up with the PR line before he knew this. So silly as it may sound, I had to pretend I could see. Every one of my staff knew, of course, but no others. Okay, it's not really a lot there. This is a murder trial. I apologize. It was part of my contract. I was to keep my blindness a secret, no matter what. Music is everything for me. I never imagined something like this would... She told us the truth in the beginning, when she said she saw nothing. Very well. Is the defense have anything to add? I'd like to cross-examine. But what is there left to ask? There was one thing in her testimony that bothered me. Perhaps it's best we let you get it out of your system. Someday you'll come to understand the importance of thinking for yourself. Very well, the defense may proceed. However, be aware this court will not tolerate any questions deemed too stressful to the witness. Ah, fuck. My least favorite gimmick in the entire series. Hey, if you hit the button, if you engage in the game mechanics, we punish you. Okay, there's only one part that bothered me. So let me ask about that and I'll be happy. Alright, the one part that bothers him. And another thing is that, like, I feel like that's not... I mean, if you've played the other games and you're aware that sometimes they punish you for pressing. But I feel like if you had not played the other games, that shit is not very clear that if, like, I hit press here, I'm gonna, like, get penalized. I have no memory of the light. Maybe in a world of darkness and sound. Came up with this PR line before he knew this. Everyone on my staff knew, of course, but no others. Define staff. Like, would Latouche be considered part of her staff? In theory, yes, but we do know that they didn't meet until she got there. When you say your staff, do you include Mr. Latouche? Of course, he was my manager. So he knew. And that's what's been bugging me. Something the matter, Mr. Justice? I really know what is bothering a young defense attorney. You were thinking of when you discovered the body, yes? Is he right, Apollo? Yeah, I was. Hello, I have returned. Once again, it is time to revisit the death of your favorite character, Mr. Latouche. Via flashbacks, I have been in the entire series more than any other side character. Even you, Detective Gumshoe, you paled before me and my persistence on screen. He's alive. Mr. Latouche, can you hear me? Apollo, we meet again. I see I am dying, once again in your mind. It's like you can't get me out of it. Is this some sort of confession? You're cold. Don't worry. You're gonna be fine. Help is on the way. Can't see. Hang in there, Mr. Latouche. Tell me, who was the witness? The witness is Cyrene. Turned me into Hornet Toad. Mr. Latouche told me to ask the witness and he named you. Why would he do that? He knew you were blind. I don't know. What did I just say? You need to learn to think for yourself. You need what? There's no mystery here if you recall everything he said. Think of the last words once more. Bro, I don't know. I mean... the siren. I mean, she's still the siren. Even if he's the one that sees and she's the one who can't. The witness? Siren? We've heard them many times, along with a little play acting by our defense. I remember them well myself, but that statement is not what I refer. Maybe what he said before that. Before? What came before that? Oh god, we've seen it 85 times! That's right. He tried to tell you. When he said can't see, he wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about the witness. Too bad the defense did not. Well, her forehead? Try relaxing and looking at the facts next time. Order, order! Recall Lamior's earlier testimony. I was on my way from stage to backstage exit. There were 2 shots. Couldn't do anything to stop it. Well, she couldn't have heard those gunshots. But, like, we didn't, because that part's stupid. The idea that she wouldn't be able to hear the gunshots, but we could. Not the most important point here. The moment he was shot, Mr. Latouche witnessed her through that window. Why else would he have named her as the witness? But I really did hear them. 2 gunshots, and the man's voice. Fortunately, such a thing was impossible. The window was closed. But it's not impossible! We heard the gunshots! We were further away! That's... Unless it's supposed to be, okay, maybe actually, if I give them the benefit, it still doesn't really make sense, but if they're saying that he was shot much earlier, and that we didn't actually hear the gunshots when they happened, but we just heard something else that sounded like them, because that actually that would shore up the weirdness of, like, the fact that they had enough time to do this in, like, that 10-second window between the gunshots happening and us breaking into the room. But, like, I can't tell if they're being dumb or not. Try to run a simulation, of course. It was so clear. If I heard that voice again, I would know it in an instant. Your Honor! What is it, bailiff? Can't you see we're in session here? I have your cheeseroos. They got extra cheese on them. And a ruse. We have the results back in the investigation. Investigation? Ah, the Interpol number that Latouche left us. Well, let's hear it. Since we can't see it, we will continue this call examination afterward. Detective Crescent, your report, please. It definitely wasn't me, Your Honor. I asked Interpol about that number. I'm sure you'll find their answer intriguing. Quick work as always, Darian. Well, tell us about the number. Is the defendant a secret agent? IPXX 314206. The agent registered under this number is Romain Latouche. Okay. What? Our undercover Interpol agent was Mr. Latouche himself. He was apparently in the middle of an operation. When he wrote those letters, he was trying to tell us his own identity. And a cautious killer tried to wipe them away. Mr. Latouche is an undercover Interpol agent. It's him being Lamour's manager. Just a cover, most likely. There's one other important detail I found. Well, out with it. He wasn't actually a shark, so he deserved to die. concerns that 45 caliber revolver, the murder weapon. Apparently it belonged to Romain Latouche. He had an Interpol permit to carry firearms, and the registration number on the revolver matched. So, the victim was killed with his own weapon, which makes sense. Hard to imagine someone who wasn't an Interpol agent with such a large revolver. The victim was an Interpol agent or an undercover op? I wonder if that ties into everything. It's gotta tie in somehow, you'd think. Yeah, somehow. Thanks for looking into that for us, Detective Crescent. It was a great help. Especially since you're not a murderer or nothing, haha. No problem at all, Your Honor. I'll be heading out. Wait! Lammeror, something the matter? That voice just now. Darien? Mr. Darien, is it? It was him. I'm sure of it. It was him? You aren't sane. That voice I heard, talking to Mr. Latouche, when I heard the gunshots fired. It was him. It was Mr. Darien. Is this some kind of joke? What? You mean the guy dressed as a shark might be sus? No way, dude. Bruh. The courtroom fell into such a chaotic state the trial had to be suspended temporarily. I've never seen that happen before. I get used to it. Of course, it's not every day you get an accusation like that one. Lammeror Finger and Darien Crescent. Not only is he a guitarist, he's a detective. Could it really have been his voice Lammeror heard? Things were changing fast, and frankly, I wasn't sure I could keep up with it. Ain't no wiping out now, Apollo. Or whipping out. To be continued. I mean, they could have made the guy a little less sus. Like, I mean, even just not having him be in a shark outfit would have probably made me not instantly latch onto him as the killer. But granted, I mean, his fate was always to be the killer, right? Anytime there's like a side character that's kind of introduced and they're not really the main focus at the start, but they're still kind of like there enough, they're usually the killer. But we will go ahead and call it. Because like the reason I knew Chickadee was the killer last time kind of early was because when she popped back up again, I was like, oh, I forgot you existed. And that's how you know they're the killer. If you can forget that the character exists, they have a very high likelihood to be the killer. Because like the only other person it could be is the magician guy who seems a little like, I don't know. I just have a feeling he's a lead-in for like a later chapter. But we'll see. I could theoretically be wrong. I'm Extra Cheesy 87. Stay tuned for the next part. And bye, guys.